Hi guys. Nigel Brooks has been a familiar name in 009 3D prints for a number of years, and offered the Baguley-Drewry Diesels a while ago. However, after some healthy pestering, he has recently released these, the TWO Baguleys, and kindly sent two for me to take for a spin. These diesels have been designed to fit onto the Kato 11-109 chassis, which he sells on his website as well. So I have two of those here. First impressions show a very tidy product. The main body includes some of the details already printed, such as the windscreen wipers, which is nice actually, because if you've ever built the Narrow Planet version of this diesel, those wipers can be a little bit fiddly. I'll also mention why I'm using these at this point, as a few people commented and asked why I'm not using a Bachmann ready to run Baguley. Well, those models aren't actually the correct size for the TR diesels. They're nice in their own right, sure, but no good if you want to model something a little bit more accurate for the Talyllyn. Looking at some of the separate details, obviously you'd expect a roof as a piece. This one has alignment dimples on the underside to help position it. And that's something I noted Westcliff Works put on their roofs. It's a brilliant detail for us builders of the kits. It also comes with some TR specific details such as sets of steps, 2 sets of buffer beams, and some other little bits I'll show later. It also comes with name and number plates. In fact, it comes with multiple for both 11 and 12. Probably because they're very fragile and easy to break. Right, so the first thing I need to do is strip down any details into their separate parts. They're all held on with little nips, and they're easy to snap off with a hobby knife, though little cutting spurs would probably be a safer option. I'm also only going to be removing one set of buffer beams that I need, which are the ones with actual buffers on them. I whipped out the chassis with the intention of doing any required modifications so I'm ready for the build, but in reality the only thing I actually needed to do was to remove the couplings, which aren't even connected by a screw, so literally just pull out. The body doesn't require any tidying up at all, so on to the build. I'm doing the door first, and I want to show you how clever this part is. If you can see, the body actually has hinges, so by dropping the door onto them, yes, you get an actual working open and closing door. Incredibly. As fun as that is, I want mine closed. Forever. So I'll add a little drop of super glue in the corner to hold it and press it shut. I can then go along and add the smaller details, such as this little guy. Whatever he is. The next cleverly modelled piece to note are the buffer beams. Uniquely, they're not actually a complete buffer beam that you add on, but a smaller insert that includes the details. But what this does mean is that you get it perfectly level as it slots into a specific gap, whereas on adding a complete buffer beam you have the chance of sticking it on wonky. I can't remember what this extension is for, but it's unique to the Talyllyn. Of course, the beauty of modelling is that I don't actually need to know what it does, just where it goes on the diesel. Then, looking close at a set of steps, you'll notice that they even have groove detail on the top sides. So it's important to glue them the correct way up. The Talyllyn has 2 sets of steps. But again, the kit comes with spares, which is good because I chipped one of my sets. Aside from the jobs from the kit itself, the only thing I wanted to change and add were the door grab handles. The kit does have them, however they're too short for the Talyllyn diesels. I've reported this back to Nigel, and he's planning to alter the kits in the future. I'm using a knife to cut away the current handles, and when the surface is flat, I use a pin drill to create a teeny tiny hole. I'll add handles towards the end of the build. The pair of models are now ready for the painting stage, and first up is primer. As always, it's good to add primer in thin coats to try and get it into any corners or around details, so the top coat goes on nice and even later. First up is Trecwn. You'll notice that it's actually already green here. That's because I've already applied a coat of green and I wasn't actually happy with it. So pretend you can't see that. I'm airbrushing a shade of green commonly used for TR models. And no, it isn't the same as the one I used on number 2 and 7. The reason for this is Trecwn appears a different shade of green to them, even if it is the same. So I wanted to replicate that. St Cadfan was a little bit more tricky. I believe it's finished in Indian red, but I don't have that colour, so I mixed up a shade of paint that looked sort of like it. When their colour coats are dry, I'll start to mask off the front and rear of both models, as these are finished with wasp stripes. So I need to paint some. I've done this before in 5.5mm, so I had a system in place. First is the yellow base coat. I applied about 3 or 4 coats here as the yellow doesn't cover anything very well at all. I then masked off one half of the panel. The edge of the masking tape needs to be central on the panel, and with this diesel, that's an easy one to get right as there's little rivets all over the surface that you can work against. With one half now fully masked off, I'll work on the wasp stripes on the other side. This is done using 3mm masking tape, laid on an angle. I tend to add one in the centre first and then move outwards to the rest. I could have done with 2mm, looking at how large these stripes are, but there we go. To get the correct spacing between the stripes, I'm using a little piece of tape stuck down between them. This is then removed as the strip is applied. When all the tape's down on one side, the black is airbrushed on. I'm not really sure how well this would work if you didn't have an airbrush, and like the yellow, the black is applied in multiple coats, but this time to reduce the risk of paint seeping under the tape. And peeling off the tape reveals the stripes. Very wasp-like. The whole process is repeated for the opposite side, but care is needed to align the stripes in the centre. And because the revealing is satisfying, here is the second half done. Yeah, I like that bit. The whole body needs to be masked off to paint the underframe. One of the best parts of painting diesels like the Bagleys is how flat and blocky they are. So this job is a super easy one. And then the two are sprayed in black. You'll see how I'm struggling to get the paint into the corners around the steps. So this was done in a few coats until I had a uniform finish. The wasp stripes look great, but I now need to paint over most of the front to cover them up again. The front only actually has stripes around the outside, but it's easier to add them to the whole panel and then repaint the middle in after, like I am now. I made a little masking window to paint the centres in. No overspray for me, thanks. That's all the airbrushing done, so on to the hand brushes. The cab interior is cream, so I'll paint it cream. What else would you want me to say about that? It's fiddly and not fun and I hate it? Yeah, well, that's true as well. I'm also painting the floor and seats with a grey. I have zero confidence that you'll see any of this when the figures are in and the roof is on. But there we go, I've done it. With the interior looking somewhat finished, I'll do the outside details. The wipers and rim around the window on the front and rear are black, and as they're raised, it's a nice clean finish when you're working your way along it. Well, not all the time. I kept screwing this bit up, but a quick wipe with a damp cotton bud will remove any evidence before the family sees it, and shame me. Unlike the front and rear, the side windows are metal, or grey in my case. This needs a couple of coats to cover the red, but luckily it isn't a very time consuming job. Oh yes, there's also a little bit of lining to do. The transfers on St Cadfan are the same white black white as on number 4 a few weeks back, and on Trecwn they are the same but orange black orange. My preferred method of adding transfers is to add all of the separate pieces onto the panel being worked on, and then to adjust their position together. Luckily, water slide transfers let you play around until the surface is dry, so you could spend days doing this. I didn't, I spent about 3 minutes doing it. Small adjustments are key here, and it sometimes helps to hold one down with the cocktail stick while adjusting one adjoining it. Unlike the name and number plates, the front works plate is printed as part of the model. I haven't shown it, but I have painted them back in with the body colour after the wasp stripes were added. I can then attempt to dry brush the raised detail on them. I didn't do a great job, so don't look too close at those. Speaking of plates, I'll add them onto the side now. I've painted their main colour on, and this is different for 11 and 12. Trecwn is red, as you can see here, but St Cadfan is black. I'm attaching them with a drop of glue and glaze, and I might swap them out for etched brass plates at some point. They seem a tad too thick. The models are pretty much done now, so I'll spray a coat of satin varnish to seal in the transfers, and to bring a uniform look to the different styles of paint used. I'm conscious about how much I recommend an airbrush, but even applying varnish is better this way. The handrails are going in now. These were bent up from spare wire and sprayed black in the booth. And now for the wash. It's doing that thing again when the surface seems hydrophobic. I think the varnish coat was too thick, so the paint doesn't key onto it. It's fine, I'll just add more water and scrub it a bit. Yes, I also wanted to praise Nigel once again. The glazing sheet has cut lines, and when done correctly, they actually slot into little side brackets to hold them in level. The glazing also has a black rim, so you can see how level they are in the slots. It's such a nice detail. I've painted the figures quickly because this video is getting quite long, so go watch my other videos for figure painting. I'll glue these in place with a drop of super glue on the bottom, their bottom, and then the roof can go on. Oh, the weathering came out nice on that roof as well, love that. The final job here is adding the chassis. It's actually a push fit by the feel of it, but I added a drop of super glue into the corner to hold it in, as I have a little bit of a complex about chassis falling out when handling models. I think that's them done, isn't it? Yeah, that's them done. So there we go, 2 diesels in 1 week. By now you should have gotten an understanding of how impressed I am with these products. I've added the link to his website in the description. They are really well priced, as all his products are, so give them a go. Actually, with the completion of these 2 diesels, does that mean I now own all of the Talyllyn diesel stock? Well, current stock anyway. I'm really happy with these 2, and they'll really help to get that modern image look that I'm after on the layout, and the opportunity to run anything goes gala trains as well. Oh yes, next week is different. I'm on holiday, so won't be able to do any modelling, but I do want a video. so I think I might do a live stream on Thursday evening. If you want to chat, contribute to the video through comments that I can reply to on the video, or just tune in to watch it live, I'll aim for 7 PM start. I have literally no plan of what to do as yet, so if you have any suggestion what you'd like me to talk about or do, leave it in the comments for this video. I'll be in Trecwn for the live stream if that helps. Anyway, I've got chickens to feed, so off you go. Cheers.